In today's society, what is socially responsible art? What is revolutionary art? For Emanuel, art is liberation. It thematically tells the story of a people in struggle engaged in social change, building a cosmic vision from the roots of our land, history, and culture. The revolutionary artistic transformation of Emanuel started in the streets and in juvenile detention centers. Street art became public art, transforming into community art, giving those involved in the creative process a sense of pride and ownership. The barrios lit up, forming a resistance dedicated to self-determination and cultural autonomy.
This is a scrapbook that I've been putting together since 1964. It's a compilation of mainly newspaper articles and publicity that I have received for my accomplishments and achievements in the arts, beginning in high school in the Chicano movement, which was just starting here in Denver in 1966. But just before that, in 65, which was the year that I graduated, I was already working with Corky Gonzales when he was the Neighborhood Youth Corps director. I began working for him, and at that time we were doing some demonstrations. This is a demonstration we had going there against the Rocky Mountain News for a lot of yellow journalism, and I let out a walkout with the young people from their jobs that worked at the Neighborhood Youth Corps, and I was talking here with the mayor, and I was also in the on the Civil Rights Committee here, along with Lauren Watson, who was the head of the Black Panthers.
He rises from humble beginnings with his familia from Nuevo Mexico, migrants that worked the fields in Colorado, picking beets and potatoes, caught up in the grips of poverty and an Anglo society. While in detention, Emanuel used to practice his art using sheets of paper towels and burnt matchsticks. After catching the attention of some staff members, he was finally allowed paper and pencil. This is where his transformation began, working with acrylic paints on public murals, much like the Mexican muralists, or sculpting under the influence of Mexico's Zúñiga. With no formal training, he does what feels natural, drawing inspiration from the people and world around him.
Manuel is one of those incredible American artists that is able to take from his personal experience and create works of art of national resonance. He has been there at some of the most crucial moments of 20th century American history, documenting those moments and creating the iconic images that allow us to understand our American identity from a much more enriched and full experience.
The Tierra o Muerte is, of course, an icon of Mexico and represents the Mexican Revolution.
Right.
And I think bringing that into the movement and the struggle and how that just kind of went everywhere.
Well, yeah, I think it was very appropriate at the time because, Zapata, fought for lands and distribution of lands, among the poor people. So he was like an idol, I think, and still is, in the Chicano movement. Zapata is really revered quite a bit by the leadership and all that, even more so, I think, than Pancho Villa. So Zapata, especially in New Mexico, the land grant struggle, I felt Zapata was the appropriate figure to relate to the land, you know, and the struggles that were going on there. Moving on to this, you know, these are articles of the Poor People's Campaign, which I took a part of. I'm pictured here at the Supreme Court Justice, where I climbed on top of the statue with some brown berets, black berets, and did some sketches up there. This depicts, you know, what was happening as a pioneer of the Chicano mural movement. Because at this time, there really wasn't much mural activity going on, even in California. I know because after I left Chavez in '66, I went to Los Angeles seeking out any kind of mural activity that I could be a part of, because that's where it really felt like doing murals, but there was nothing happening. The murals in LA didn't really get going until the 70s, you know, and we're talking later in the 70s, 74, 75, 76, around there is when I believe, you know, Judy Bach and them were just starting to do murals. So that was like almost 10 years later. So I had to come back in Denver and just pretty much start doing murals however I can. And the first mural, one of the first murals I did was I had to become a lifeguard to do it. And this depicts me, a picture of me as a lifeguard, in order to paint a mural on a building that was facing the swimming pool. And it was a mural that relates to our people. And at the time, you know, I was very into showing people who we are as a people, as a mestizos, our pre-Columbian past. Zapata is depicted here, but it was also on the far right is a universal image that I put there of all different races coming together with a peace symbol, and another article when I was arrested at the West High walkout in Denver, which is a walkout that has inspired other walkouts throughout the country.
Emanuel Martinez is committed to art that inspires and generates connection to a stream of knowledge, creativity, and artistic consciousness that impacts the social landscape.
The astonishing thing about the images that he creates is that they are first and foremost human. They tell a human story. Regardless of our specific experiences, we can all express that struggle for justice. We can all express and feel that struggle for basic food and clothing and shelter and caring by a family. And Manuel encapsulates that in his works of art in such a way that we don't have to know his specific story. We don't have to experience life the way that he experienced it, but he allows us to understand our lives better because he's telling his life in such a pure, crystalline, clear way.
A movement to build a more just and beautiful society fuses these stories, symbols, and icons. The scrapbook is a reflection of life.
I was working for the Colorado Migrant Council at this time, and I did some murals with them. They really gave me the flexibility to do murals. We are on the same page, in other words, politically, and they realized the importance of taking art to the people, community, the migrants where they work and they live, and this is what my job was. And it really worked well by working with the Migrant Council because they really gave me the flexibility to do murals. And a lot of these murals, in fact, these ones right here, this was done by, not only did I was working for the Migrant Council, but I got money to hire other artists to work with me. And here's a group of some of the artists. All these guys are artists. You know, Carlos Sandoval, who's an artist from San Luis, he worked for me. Eric Fego Baca, Ernie Gallegos, and he's very prominent artist now. Roberto Roybal, who's from San Luis also. So I was able to secure money to try to get them to help me. So we had that going, but we also had a lot of volunteers
see here the magnitude of an artist, a Mexican artist like Francisco Zúñiga and his
Yes, yeah.
contact with you and his influences.
Right. Zúñiga was my idol as a sculptor, and I would, like, as I pointed out, I was just getting into sculpture, and I always admired Zúñiga. I learned about Zúñiga when I was in Mexico when I was 19 years old, when I hitchhiked over there with my artist friend.
With powerful imagery inspired by Mexican muralists like Orozco and Rivera, he even hitchhiked to Mexico to seek out an apprenticeship with David Alfaro Siqueiros. Emanuel returned with what are today's symbols of Zapata, tierra o muerte, the mestizo. It was the beginning of a cosmic amalgam, the story of his people with deep cultural connections to the land.
His works of art, his murals, his more intimate drawings, his printmaking, his posters that were plastered up on fence posts throughout northern New Mexico, all have a direct communicative power. And that direct communication is rooted in the best of public art. It's about communication. It's not about creating some internally confused logic. It's about creating a public expressive voice. And all of us understand and learn from that public voice in a profound way.
But this one here, this is La Alma.
La Alma, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about La Alma,
La Alma Rec Center I founded that place as at the time I was implementing an arts and crafts training program that was paid by Denver Opportunity. It was a 6-month program, and we didn't have any place to implement the program out of, that we couldn't afford any rent. So I asked the city if we could use their storage building, which used to house their trucks and lawnmowers, if we could use it as a rec center. I mean, to implement my program. And then after the program ended, we had so many people that attended this, the kids in the neighborhood, because we were living in between 2 housing projects, which were literally thousands of people there, and they had no center that they could go to. And I asked them if we could turn it into a rec center, and they let me do it.
This mural, according to Emanuel, is the epitome of what a community mural should be. Emanuel's vision and his concern for at-risk youth has generated the Emanuel Project, busy painting murals in prisons and juvenile detention facilities across the U.S. He has maintained his artistic integrity in the face of oppression, poverty, movement, and struggle. The interplay of spirit and imagination touches the core of his being in a true catharsis from the roots of his cosmovision. The amalgam of these traditions and forms of artistic expression are a way to help us see where we are going. It is a form of spiritual revitalization, a rebirth, if you will.